Well, good evening, everybody. We'd like to welcome you tonight to our February 5th Hendersonville Regional Planning Commission meeting, and we'd like to call this meeting to order. And at this time, I'm going to ask everyone to stand, and I'm going to ask Director Keith Free to open us in prayer.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and just be with this meeting tonight. Be with the Planning Commission members as they deliberate and hear about all the projects, and God, just guide them in their decisions. God, we just ask a significant blessing on our community. Just bless the city of Hendersonville and bless it in significant ways. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. You may be seated. We'd like to reflect that all planning commissioners are here. Chair would make note that we'd like to welcome tonight Ms. Longmire, Commissioner Longmire, back to the Planning Commission. She was actually a mayor of our city a long time ago, and so we're welcome. Well, I just want everybody to know we got a former mayor up here, but we're glad to have you on board.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on board.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very much. And we'd like to note also, and I think a little later in the meeting we'll take some more time to talk about this, but we would like to, as the chair, I'd just like to thank Ms. Lori Atchley for her distinguished service on this commission for about 10 years. And we will miss her, but certainly wish her well. Amen. All right, we want to keep on going here, and we've got the roll call done. We've got two public hearings, which really are about the same thing. So the chair last month left one of the hearings open, and I'm going to combine those together since they're kind of the same. And let me just read it. It's a request by Sean Jackson to amend the general framework map of Hendersonville land use and transportation plan to change the character area designation of property from suburban center to suburban living. And the properties are located east of Stop 30 Road on the north side of East Main Street as identified on Sumner County Property Tax Map 146, parcel 061.01 and map 159D, Group A, parcel 029.00. And we continued that hearing from 1/7/2019. And then, of course, the second hearing is to request to rezone the 6.71 acres from office plan development, which was OPD, and suburban residential medium density plan development, SR2 PD, to multifamily residential plan development, MFR PD, and office plan development, OPD, to approve a preliminary development plan for Jackson Townhomes. The property is located on east of Stop 30 Road on the north side of East Main Street, as identified Sumner County Property Tax Map 146, parcel 061.01, and map 159D, Group A, parcel 029. Okay, so we're going to just combine these two hearings together, and we're going to now take public comments on this, and we only have one person that is signed up on the list here to speak, and so we will ask this person to come, Mr. Charles Hasty. Mr. Hasty, if you would, just introduce yourself and where you live, and go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, city staff, I'm Charles Hasty. I live at 105 Stoneway in the Stony Brook subdivision, a subdivision that adjoins the Jackson property. I'm speaking on behalf of several people here tonight. My comments are somewhat lengthy. I'm a little slow. Please be patient with my time. We appreciate the opportunity to address the Commission and our concerns relative to the rezoning and the land use modifications. And I did sign up for both public hearings, and I'm glad you combined them because I only plan to speak once. Thank you. The property is undeveloped, and we'd like to see it left undeveloped. Maybe we could get lucky and have the appropriation for the Beatty Farm property amended and add the Jackson property to the city park system. Obviously, we'd like to see the Jackson property remain vacant land, but apparently reality has come. It's been sitting there vacant for a long time, and like it or not, it appears that something is going to develop on the property. We understand that Mr. Jackson has some property development rights based on the current zoning and the land use classification. At every public hearing, you hear the same concerns: traffic, drainage, property values, density, impact on schools, noise, excessive growth, visual appearance, landscaping, buffering, don't like multifamily, and all those things. We in Stony Brook are concerned about all of those issues, but we have faith that the city staff will properly address all those issues through current design standards, construction regulations, and/or off-site improvements. However, the primary concern for the residents of Stony Brook subdivision is the potential negative impact to the livability we currently enjoy and the development being consistent with the current developed community. Again, livability and consistency with the current development is our primary concern. The lack of for sale signs in Stony Brook subdivision is an indication of what we think of our quiet, enjoyable neighborhood, and we want to keep it that way. Mr. Jackson and his design team have major land restriction issues to overcome to be able to come up with a development plan that would be a profitable adventure. Lack of total land area. I'm an engineer. In my opinion, 5.6 acres is too small for a successful multifamily development. And to compound that, there's approximately 1.6 acres of the 5.6 acres developing high density that's currently encumbered with recorded draining easements, recorded sewer easements, and stream buffers. Considering the developable area and the potential of 45 units, I know the site data table in a lot of this discussion, it refers to 42 units. But note number 14 on the general notes of the development plan indicates that 3 additional units will be added if access is obtained through our neighbor's church property. That's a density of over 10 units per acre of developable area. That is totally inconsistent with our neighborhood, in our opinion. Also, the boundary configuration. It's a weird shaped piece of property that he's trying to develop. Also, there are 2 different drainage channels through the site, both which I believe would be considered waters of the state controlled by Hendersonville's current MS4 permit through the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. Again, there's a sewer trunk that goes through the sewer line that goes through the property. Connectivity is a potential major issue for emergency access. There's only one way in, one way out. I'm sure the developer will agree to put in fire sprinklers in his units, but that will not solve access problems for police, ambulance, and other emergency service personnel. 2 areas, based on the configuration of the property, of stacked row house townhomes, no garages, lack of masonry exterior, and dumpster trash service gives the appearance of 2 small apartment complexes on this weird shaped property that is totally inconsistent with the built neighborhood. Simply meeting minimum requirements does not make a development consistent with the neighborhood. Simply increasing density and a design that is inconsistent with our neighborhood to make it a profitable adventure for the developer is not a valid reason to change the land use or rezone the property to multifamily, in our opinion. There's one major item of the design of this plan, in my opinion, that sticks out like a sore thumb, making this proposed development totally inconsistent with the neighborhood. The plan calls or says the typical unit is 20 feet by 33 feet. It further states this is a conceptual dimension that could change on a final development plan. Could they be smaller? If they're going to be larger, I bet the plan would have reflected it. Let's assume they stay the same at 20 by 33 feet. That's a 660 square foot footprint per unit. For an area of comparison, the garage at my house has 618 square feet. 650 feet, 660 square feet is only slightly bigger than my garage. Their garage is in Stony Brook, a lot bigger than mine. For a development to even be considered for this area with a unit footprint smaller than garages in the neighborhood, in my opinion, is ridiculously inconsistent. It's going to be difficult for the property with the property constraints to successfully develop this property and make it look good, fit in, and be consistent with the existing neighborhood. The definition of consistent is acting or done in the same way over time, especially to be fair or accurate. Being steady, being stable, being uniform, unchanging, homogeneous, and compatible. I challenge anyone to drive through the Stony Brook subdivision, look at this proposed development plan, and tell us that it's consistent with the neighborhood. We don't think it is. We're very concerned about the zoning, the land use, and the proposed development plan, again, that will negatively impact our livability, and that's not consistent with our neighborhood. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen have the final say on rezoning based on recommendations of the Planning Commission. The land use plan is your plan, the Planning Commission, to provide orderly, consistent growth and development that's consistent with the developments in the existing built neighborhoods. The zoning ordinance stipulates in your deliberations that you shall determine that the planned development is in the public interest and make specific findings with regard to certain items. One item being there will be no adverse effect upon adjoining property owners unless such effects can be justified by the overwhelming public good and welfare. We believe the plan as submitted will have an adverse effect on our community, and these 45 units cannot be justified for the overwhelming public good and welfare. Another item being, no property owner or small group of property owners will benefit materially from the changes to the detriment of the general public. We stipulate that we believe that there are detriments to our neighborhood. The changes must be for mutual benefit or why change the design, size, quality of the units on the Hidden Acres preliminary master plan that was approved for a portion of this property to the proposed multifamily townhomes. There are several permitted uses on the proposed change. There is one possible permitted use that we adamantly oppose. Nobody, and I can safely say, I think I'm speaking for most everybody here tonight, nobody wants the community residences for alcohol and drug treatment rehabilitation be considered on this property in our neighborhood, next to our neighborhood. Whatever you do, please remove that as a permitted use. We need your help. We asked the Planning Commission to deny the rezoning request, the land use change, and the preliminary plan as submitted. As a minimum, we asked the Planning Commission to defer any action on the rezoning recommendations and the land use changes. Send the developer and his team back to the drawing board and design a plan that is consistent with the neighborhood and the surrounding areas. If condos to the south of Stony Brook subdivision were consistent in design and quality with the condos in the villages of Stony Brook, the Bridge Mill at Indian Lake, Windermere condos, or even the site design and quality of the units on the previously approved Hidden Acres plan, I think it would be a much more amenable situation for considerations. We ask that our alderman, Mr. Woodcock, please make the motion to deny, and we ask the commission to support him. There are several people here tonight that are against this proposed request, and I'd like for everybody that's here that's in opposition to the changes and the plan as submitted to please stand and be recognized. As you can see, the neighbor is opposed for an inconsistent plan. Thank you for your consideration. I don't know exactly where this item is on your agenda, but I'm sure if it were moved up for consideration, there'd be a lot of people to get out of your hair. Thank you for your time and your consideration, and we appreciate your efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hasty. If we could, I am sure he'll be available for autographs after this is over.
Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks, and we would note that the chair gave some latitude on comments simply because he was the only one speaking, and we appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move on with the agenda. Is there any request for information and assistance? Hearing none. Any additions to the agenda? Okay, none.
I have an announcement, if I could.
Okay.
Is now a great time?
Is it addition to the agenda, Mr. Woodcock?
10 seconds and I'll be done.
Okay, go ahead.
So since there are so many Ward 5 people here, our fellow Alderman Jonathan Hayes is here. Thursday night in this room at 6 o'clock, we're having our first joint town hall. We'll be discussing a lot of issues that are primarily about Ward 5. So if you don't mind, come back in 2 days and get an update on the city in Ward 5. Thank you.
Very appropriate. Okay, so hearing no other additions, minutes to the minutes of January 7th, do I have a motion? Move to accept by Mr. Altizer, second by Ms. Silkwood. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have an abstention, Mr. Woodcock, Ms. Stringfellow, Ms. McCormick, Ms. Longmire. Anybody else? He said 4 abstentions. Okay. There are no consent agenda items. Let's move to final plat. We've got Hunt Club Phase 8, and there is a question on that, so who's handling this, Mr. Free?
I'll take care of that.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Hunt Club Phase 8, and this consists of 23 residential lots and 2 open spaces, and it's a final plat for this development.
Okay, is the applicant here? Cal, you gonna do it? Okay. I noticed that you disagree with Public Works comment number 2. Am I
Yes,
right?
sir, we do. Cal Gentry, Southeastern Building Corporation. Mr. Free, if you'd like to speak to it, or if you rather, I can.
Now, I can speak to that unless you want to, Marshall. Yeah, what this is that the city of Hendersonville, the Building Codes Department, is going to be starting on residential property to kind of step up what's being requested for soils analysis and geotechnical information, and they've requested that we assist them in informing people of this. And so we had a note on there to add this as a note onto the plat. In talking to the city engineer, I think we're satisfied with that not being a note on the plat, but just for informational purposes. So everything's satisfied with the conditions.
And we're satisfied with that as well.
Okay, so there are no disagreements here then?
No.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
And that'll be the same thing for the next one as well.
All right, so any more discussion on this? Any questions for Mr. Gentry while he's here? Okay.
Move to approve.
Ms. Stringfellow, excuse me, Ms. McCormick makes the motion. Mr. Millsaps seconds the motion. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Moving on to Hunt Club Phase 12, do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Ms. McCormick, second by Mr. Millsaps. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's approved.
Thank you.
Moving on to New Shackle Point, final plat. They agree with all staff comments. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Ms. McCormick, second by Ms. Stringfellow. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Southview Professional Plaza, final plat. Mr. Free, who's handling this one?
This will be Mr. Whitten.
Mr. Whitten.
This is a plat in support of the Southview Professional Plaza FTP and site plan, which are also on tonight's agenda. The applicants have agreed to all staff comments with the exception of planning comment 2 and 7. I have not had a chance to discuss this with the applicant since the response was received this afternoon, but I know that number 7 can be resolved, and number 2 as well. I'm 99% sure that is a result of a misunderstanding,
Okay.
and it can also be cleared up. I don't know if the applicant would like to speak to that or not.
Is the applicant present? Let's go ahead and see if we can't just resolve this right now.
Yeah, Van Oldham Greenwood Design. I live here in Hendersonville.
Okay.
Yes, so comment 2, connect sidewalk to driveway between lots 2 and 3. All we're asking for there is an extension of the sidewalk to the radius of that driveway, not across the driveway.
Right,
It's a matter of about 7 feet.
right. I understand that, and I talked to the surveyor this afternoon, and I believe that's something that we're on board with that.
Okay.
I just wanted to confirm with them.
And then staff comment 7, that address, I've gotten that resolved, so staff is okay with that.
Okay, so we have a final plat. They agree with all staff comments. We're good to go? All right. Any more questions, Mr. Lee? You have a question?
No, I was just going to move to approve.
Move to approve by Mr. Lee, second by Mr. Hardwick. Any more discussion?
Yes.
Ms. McCormick, I keep calling.
It's okay. I'll
know why I
be
keep
I'll be
doing that.
whoever you want me to be tonight. It appears that Southview is on our agenda multiple times. Is there any way that the commission would contemplate grouping to approve? Because they appear in preliminary and final plans as well as site plans as well as this current section of final plats. I got a feeling we're going to kind of be in the same situation, or can we address all issues at this point so that he's not having to get up and sit down and get up and sit down, et cetera?
That's certainly doable. It's at the will of the commission. What's your pleasure? Move to group by Mr. Woodcock, second by Ms. Silkwood. Any discussion on moving to group? Just before we do that, Mr. Free, would there be any discussion items that need to be dealt with if we, on a separate basis?
Just the public works.
No, I don't think so. I think we could approve all of those. But if, Mr. Witten, was there any other issues?
The public works comment.
Believe so. I think all of the discussion items have been resolved to staff satisfaction and to the applicant's satisfaction. So.
Okay, well then we've got the planning department saying that there are no other issues, and we have a motion and a second to group all three of these for Southview Professional Plaza. Any discussion? All in favor for the move to
Mr.
group?
Chairman, just
Mr. Lee.
a comment. I think I would just say when we first considered making this allowable, I think there was some concern, but I want to commend the developer for coming back with an excellent plan.
Yes.
Something that will complement, I think, that area, so I want to commend them for that. Thank you.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. There is no more discussion, so all in favor of moving to group, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered. Okay, so at
Thank
this
you.
point now, we're going to group together Southview Professional Plaza final plat, the Southview Professional Plaza Lot 1 preliminary and final development plan, and we're also going to group the site plan. Okay, so we have three items there that have been grouped together. Do we have a motion?
You already have one on the table.
Pardon me?
Didn't you have one on the? Move to approve with all staff comments.
Move to approve with all staff comments. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Millsaps. Any more discussion?
I have a
Mr.
question.
Woodcock.
On the agenda, it notes that they would like to discuss comment 1A and also planning comment 6 and 2B. I just want to give them an
Okay.
opportunity to do that if they still
Are
wish to.
they, is the applicant, step back up. I think we were talking about agreeing with all staff comments, so are we okay?
Yes, everything's fine. The only concern that we had, but it's just something I think we've worked out, is the curb and gutter. Rather than do the fee in lieu of, we want to just build it, which I think is acceptable. So,
Okay, we're good to go then.
all right.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I figured was going on there.
Yeah.
All right, so we're good on all those points. So we have a motion and a second to group all these, and we have a motion and a second to accept. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's carried, so Southview is approved. All right, so moving on now, we go on to Jackson Townhomes, and we go to the final development plan. And so, Mr. Free, who's handling that one?
That's going to be our senior planner, Grant Green.
Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a development plan that's proposed on two parcels. There were two prior development plans on each of those parcels. And the front that faces north or East Main was HB Nichols, which is a commercial subdivision that it showed office and retail on the front parcel. The rear parcel was a plan called Kindy Acres. And this was also a PDP that was approved, I think, back in 2007. This was approved with 16 townhomes and with garages, and there's some differences in what was the two development plans, or actually the three development plans. There's if you look on pages 2 and 3, there's some information that kind of goes and it details the differences in each of the parcels versus the two development plans that are approved versus this new development plan that encompasses both parcels. The front parcel would be changed from that commercial use to primarily townhomes, and then the home that's at the front there would remain and be converted into an office use. However, there are a list of uses that are added to this development plan that weren't previously specifically addressed. And that list of uses is in the chart on page 3. Actually, it's not in the chart. It's on page 2, and that shows different uses, including assisted living facilities, daycares, bed and breakfast, and community residences. And this is a number of different things that are approved that are on the Hidden View Acres PDP, that it was just single family and 2-family development, and for the rear parcel, and this would include essentially many of the same uses that are on that that are on the PDP proposal. So this would also require a change in the land use plan and the existing land use plan that's currently there for the front parcel. This currently is suburban center, and many of the much of the development that's along East Main is in that suburban center classification. This would take the rear essentially I think up to about 200 feet of that would remain, which if you look to the back to Stony Brook, that's about 500 feet. So that would bring the land use, the suburban living that's like Stony Brook is assigned, that would bring that suburban living land use down to about 200 feet from the roadway. So that would be a significant variation in the land use. At zoning, you can see it's office PD and SR2 PD. The office PD, that would change the classification to the back portion of that to MFR PD, and then also the back parcel would also be MFR PD as this part of this plan development change request. Currently, the property is adjacent to Stony Brook, the single-family residential, St. Timothy's Lutheran Church, and then an assisted living facility that's off to the east. And let's see if there's anything else that essentially you'll be voting to change the land use to suburban living, a good portion of that front parcel to suburban living, and then also the plan development approval would change the zoning of the road to MFR PD as well. I think that's about it.
All right. Is there someone from the applicant here? If you would, just go ahead and introduce yourself. We'll give you some time to present your plan.
Yeah, good evening, Sean DeCoster with Civil Site Design Group. Appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. Mr. Hasty and Mr. Green have done a good job of summarizing what our proposal, we are presenting tonight. But just to go over it in a little bit more detail, we are proposing a 42-unit townhome development. The units within the development would be roughly 1,300 square feet, 2-story. They would be surface parked. We're proposing a craftsman-style architecture, which is why we have a mix of brick, stone, and hardy plank. We are trying to provide, with the changes to the plan that we're proposing, a transition from the commercial area along East Main Street back to the single-family residential that exists already in Stony Brook, and saw the townhome development as a consistent and appropriate transition for this area. We've worked with staff to try to add and enhance open space and amenities within the development. We've got a proposed walking trail, playground, dog park, areas for gazebos, picnic tables, and benches. Mr. Hasty is exactly right that there are a lot of easements and stream buffers that exist on site. and we will work to preserve all of them per the requirements. And in doing so, made sure to maintain the existing tree line that exists between the Stony Brook subdivision and the proposed townhome units. The plan does call out for allowed uses, and I'll say that it's my fault that it lists all that it does, and we would request that the allowed uses for the MFR, the multifamily residential portion, be restricted to just residential uses, none of the others. And would entertain that as a motion as part of the hearing tonight. But the intent of Mr. Jackson is to build a quality townhome product that would provide a price point that would be appropriate for first-time buyers, like someone like my daughter who's graduating college, for workforce-type housing, people who grew up here in Hendersonville, want to move back to Hendersonville, and allow them to transition in the future to the other beautiful residential developments that are within the city. So, Mr. Jackson is here with me tonight, and we're welcome any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the first question I have is let's take a step backwards here and talk to me a little bit about the 1982 plan. And on that particular plan, what were the maximums that could be built under the old zoning?
I'd probably refer to staff for most of that because I wasn't a part of it.
Right, it was a question for the staff. I'm not going to put you on the spot. Yeah.
I would say probably, looking at this has got two planned developments. It's the HB Nichols that's in the front, which is this planned development, which is fairly simple, but back in the 80s, this is kind of what some of the development plans look like. And that was all for commercial uses. Specifically, the uses listed here were retail and office that were listed on those buildings. There could be additional commercial uses, but we would have to see if there was a specific use someone wanted to do. We'd have to look back into that. But specifically, the uses of retail and office are allowed on that portion of the property. On that back portion of the property, that was the Hidden Acres Preliminary Master Plan, which was approved in 2007. And it had a density, I don't have that right here. Grant, do you know what that density was? 4.7. So it was 4.7. More than likely, probably could have gotten a little higher density on that, but with the layout of the property, and it wasn't straight zoning, it was a planned development.
Right.
So pretty much what you have here is what the maximum that was allowed at that time. It doesn't mean that if they'd had maybe another proposal, it couldn't have been higher, but what we have before us by right is on the backside are those 16 units. And with all the criteria that those have, with requiring, I think some of those things that it requires is 90% brick and stone, had a two-car front-loaded garages, and had some other things about how the size of the first floor, what it had to be. And that's what limited that to 16 units at that time, if that helps answer that.
It does help me. The other thing that I would ask is on the villages of Stony Brook themselves, the present zoning, what does that encumber and how many units per acre? Can we, Grant, can you answer that?
Yeah, he's got that.
Oh, yes, sir. Villages of Stony Brook, that was approved with about 5.1 units an acre. And then actually Stony Brook subdivision, that was 3.2 units per acre. So that does differ from this proposal, which is 8.1, 8.11.
All right, so they're at say that to me one more time. With present, right now they're at 3.8 and 4, or did you say 5?
I'm sorry, yeah, Stony Brook, the single-family residential is 3.2.
Okay.
Villages of Stony Brook is 5.13, and then this would, Jackson Townhomes is 8.11.
Okay, and under the proposed zoning, what's the maximum that they could build on that zoning?
Well, with the planned development.
No, eight's probably below what they.
Yeah, they could potentially go, and actually they came
15 units an acre.
with a proposal for, I think, 45, and they reduced that down to 42, but they do have that note that you know, that they could vary on the number of units, but that's they could put several more in with that zoning, but it is much more dense than what's currently approved.
Okay.
I can answer that one.
Okay, Mr. Free?
Yeah, on the multifamily plan development, you could go 15 units an acre, but as you can see, with the constraints in the site and how it's already kind of, well, this is not it, and how it's already kind of filled up, it'd be difficult to do that without doing something that was really a multifamily, multi-story, would be about the only way you could get 15 units an acre.
Okay. Mr. Hasty had mentioned one of the site, as far as the size. Is there any plan on your part to decrease the size of these units?
The reason that note is on.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Hold on a second. My bad. Go ahead.
The reason that the note is on the plan about that it's conceptual is that we don't have any final architecture right now. So I show simply a box with dimensions on it, and wanted to be clear that is, we're obviously not intending to build a box. There will be articulations and stuff to the building. The intended size of the units is to be roughly 1,300 square feet.
Okay, so the units are themselves are supposed to be 1,300 square feet.
In two stories, yeah,
Oh, the two
roughly a
stories.
650 square foot footprint in 2 stories, getting you to 1,300 square foot unit.
And the other concern that I heard, and I'm sure other planning commissioners will have other things to ask you, but one of the other concerns mentioned was livability and, of course, design consistency. You're going to go with more craftsman look. That's what you're proposing. Is there any room in your plan to change some architecture or some facades on the front to come more in line with what's behind you?
I'll let you answer that.
Hello, good evening. My name's Sean Jackson.
Sean,
I'm
nice
bringing
to
it
meet you.
before you tonight. They had mentioned in their comments, I guess it was the bridge mill product, and that's something that we are really going to try to mimic with this particular plan. It's a really neat product, and it looks very attractive. The craftsman design that he's talking about was just to add some character to it. So we're open to, whatever design really you feel would best match the plan. So,
Well, we obviously understand that there wants to be some, there needs to be probably some variation, obviously, but
Sure.
I think that it's a valid concern. Talk to me a little bit about, they'd mentioned garages. Your plan does not really include garages.
well, again, looking at the bridge mill product, the ideal goal here is the workforce housing. So that's creating a product,
Right.
For your teachers and, your kids that are coming back to live with you. Maybe you don't want that. Gives them a chance to actually get in there and afford something to be able to live in Hendersonville. What we're trying to do with this particular product, your question was, say that again.
Oh,
when you-
we talked a little bit about one of the comments was that these would have no garages, which
Yeah,
means you're going to have a lot of parking spaces.
Sure. So in comparison to the bridge mill product, we noticed they did a one-car garage.
Right.
And we have seen that to be somewhat of a mess over there because it's kind of tandem parking. So there's a ton of parking on the street. And to us personally, this was a much better design simply because it in my opinion and his opinion, accomplishes a couple of different things. 2 assigned parking spots per unit, and also keeps the product from going up in cost, $50,000-$60,000, which then therefore, goes against the whole product that we're trying to implement.
Okay,
Which is,
so at 2, we're going to be looking at 84 parking spaces. What about guest parking?
yeah, there's guest parking included in the plan that we have. Yeah, so that was the reason why we went really against putting the garage into the plan, just because of the cost and the expense of doing that. And then in the comparison to the bridge mill product, it just doesn't seem like that's very efficient over there. And we felt assigned parking was definitely a better route.
Well, we obviously approved the bridge mill product. It's a very nice product.
Yes, it is, yes, and we're going to try to resemble that as much as we can.
Okay, other commissioners, anybody have any questions? Commissioner Lee?
Yes, you, you did talk about a lower-cost housing option. What is the price point that you're estimating?
We're thinking that the price point's probably going to come in anywhere between $200 and $250.
Okay. All right. And the other, just to share a concern that I had as well, is that no voluntary impact fees. You know, impact fees is something that we have been working with developers on a voluntary basis for quite some time, and the city is in the process of implementing a impact fee, or at least considering an impact fee system. Perhaps Mr. Woodcock or Mr. Free could give us an update on that. But I certainly could not be in favor of any plan that did not address the impact fee in a positive manner. Let me also just say, while I really do commend the developer in terms of trying to find or to identify low-cost housing in our community, I do think we have to have a variety of housing in our area. I'm not sure that this is the right place for that to be located. And it does appear to me to be somewhat out of character for the development in that area, and I'm very familiar with that area. Have been in homes in that area many times. And I guess I don't mind telling you, I'm having difficulty to see where this plan meets the threshold and the standard that's established to either make a change in the land use plan or to rezone. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Any other commissioners have any questions? Mr. Woodcock?
Thank you. Just to be on the safe side, I would like to formally make the motion removing all commercial uses, restricting the land use to residential only, as mentioned earlier in comments.
Just for the MFR section.
Right.
It's a proper motion. Any second to that? Second. Second by Ms. Silkwood. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, it's removed. Mr. Woodcock?
Thank you. And the previous speaker mentioned it, but I didn't really get an answer. So where are we on the voluntary fee? I've read the staff reports that either you or, your partners believe you should not pay because there's a previous plan approved.
Well, just with the approvals that are in place with the plans as they sit, of course, I mean, I'm not sure anybody's going to say, hey, let me go ahead and, I'm definitely, wanting to entertain whatever you guys felt necessary to be put in place, if that's what's needed to combine the parcels. We just didn't know, just because they were already two PUDs that were previously approved, that was going to be needed or expected. So we're not opposed to discussing that.
And how I see it is, if you were going with the existing plan, then there would not be a fee or would not be one expected of you. But since it's new and significantly different with a larger impact, I would like to see and expect the minimum that's been approved recently is $3,500 per lot. And I'm not sure if that has to be a motion, Keith, or is that something you can accept via the developer if he agrees?
Yeah, the developer would need to agree to it. And it would just be, if there was a motion to approve, then those things would need to be, make sure that those are added on it and clearly in the motion. So if you made a motion to approve, you'd say motion to approve, approve or deny, but either way, remember that list that you gotta address those findings of fact either way, positive or negative. You've got to address those. And then those specific elements could be addressed at that time with the uses and everything else. Yes, yeah.
I think it would be good at this point, Mr. Freed, just to go ahead and discuss a little bit. Of course, we've got Alderman Woodcock here as well, but there's a lot of discussion on the impact fees. I was in the session last week, I believe it was, with the Alderman and Alderman, and there's a lot of discussion on it, banter about it. I don't think any resolution has come yet on how that will come down. As just a matter of procedure, though, we have nothing in place presently. We're under a system where like we have done for many years, we negotiate impact fees, whatever you want to call them, lot fees with each specific developer. Mr. Woodcock does make a valid point in the sense that under the old designation that there were no impact fees, so to speak, no lot fees. But this is a new zoning that needs to be considered, and then, of course, we need to look at all those points. However, we look at some of the aforementioned townhomes that have been built here in the last couple of years. And correct me, Mr. Free, I mean, on the Bridge Mill subdivision, or townhomes, what did we do there?
That predated me, but I believe on the Bridge Mill things, there wasn't a per lot fee, but there were payments in lieu.
Payments in lieu of, right.
Or improvements to the roadway along through there.
Is that right, Marshall? It's been so long ago.
Yeah, Marshall.
Yes, if you notice, there's new paving on
Right.
Saundersville in front of that section. There's also new lights that have been installed. So that was.
Okay, so, in fairity, if we get that far with it, I think all things are on the table, but obviously, I think that the commission would have to be fair on that with what our present status is. All right. Mr. Hardwick.
I still have questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. It's been discussed about access to the church parking lot. Have you secured that access?
We have not. I believe they're in attendance just to kind of hear what was being proposed so they could familiarize themselves with exactly what is going, that we're putting in front of you. So they've been very easy to work with, and I think they're receptive to trying to possibly, if it's needed, maybe taking a look at that option.
I know we have fire department staff, and I know that's been an issue in the past, one way in, one way out. Would you like to speak to that, or are you comfortable with the plan as presented?
Well, you might want to come up here to the podium real quick.
It's not a department. We have to suspend rules here for that.
No.
Shane Nolan with the Hendersonville Fire Marshal Office. As far as secondary access, it would require that being 30 or more homes. The access that's proposed at the church, it wouldn't meet the actual distance required for remoteness where 2 fire accesses are required. So that's where I stand at it.
So they would not be in compliance is where you're.
Our code, no, sir.
Okay, all right.
All right, thank you. And
Is the second access required if they're sprinklered? So we're proposing to sprinkler the units, which eliminates the requirement for a second access.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so just to be clear, if they sprinkled units, no secondary access is needed.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is all the questions I have. I'm prepared to make a motion unless there's other speakers in the queue.
If you'll hold that motion, let's see if other speakers commissioners would like to speak. And then, Ms. Longmire, just press the button there. There you go.
Okay. I'd like to talk to you all about the cars and the parking. There are some other areas in Hendersonville. For those of you who don't know, I've been in the real estate business all my life, and right here in Hendersonville. And there's some other areas that may have garages, do have garages, and the streets are so narrow that by the time that the person on the right-hand side of the street parks and the person on the left-hand parks, you can't get around. and it's dangerous for people who are walking out to get in cars and out of cars. So what is the width of your streets? Are they going to be just the normal
26
size
foot.
that we see?
So within the development, all the streets have a 24-foot drive aisle, 12 feet either way, and there would be no, in the section of the street that has on-street parking, it's parallel parking. The rest of the development is surface parked, so you wouldn't have any issues where the drive aisles would be narrowed because cars were parked along them. There'll be head-in parking.
So if you have a 24-foot street,
Yes, ma'am.
and you put a car on each side, how much width does that take?
So the 24 feet is just for driving on. The parking is an additional 18 feet on each side. So
Okay, so even when they're parked, there'll still be 18 feet.
if there are cars parked on each side of the street, there will still be 24 feet to drive on.
Okay, and then let me ask you about this common guest parking or whatever. You've got two per unit. Are these units supposed to be 2 or 3 bedroom?
It'll be a mix of 2 and 3 bedroom units.
Okay. And you're talking about appealing to our younger people. You're talking about $153 to $192 a square foot. It's a lot of money. I know they're nice, but there's a lot of young people that can't afford that. And they're teachers. They're educated. They've got good jobs. And I know that they can't live here in Hendersonville because they can't afford it. Are you planning on these units, are they going to look like what you showed us up here, or are you going to vary that? Are they going to end up being the tall skinnies, as we in the business call them, like East Nashville has?
No, I believe that the intent is to match what, not I believe, I know the intent is to match what we showed with the plans. We're not looking for the tall skinnies that are going up all throughout Nashville where you're cramming six units on quarter acre.
Right.
That type of thing. It'll be an attractive product.
And each unit that you're building there has how many individual homes?
They vary from, I believe we have some blocks of 4 units per building and some up to 6.
Okay. I mean, I have a lot of concern about the parking because I think the market that you're targeting, and I'm sure there are people that can't afford that, not necessarily our kids coming back.
Can I address the parking for you before you go on?
Yes.
So within the development, it's kind of obviously broken up into 2 sections. Within the lower development, we park it at 2 spaces per unit, plus an additional 12 extra spaces for guests. And then as part of the
Per unit? I mean, like if you have 4 units there together, there's going to be 12 extra parking spaces in addition to the 2 for each.
Yes, ma'am. There's 20 units in that lower area. We have 42 parking spaces, plus an additional 10 parallel on the street.
And they're all in your development, they're not on any other property?
That's correct, and we've also provided for a shared parking agreement with the commercial building up front to allow for, if for some reason there was an extraordinary event that required additional parking, they would be allowed to park in that commercial parking lot after hours and on weekends.
Well, and I think that a lot of people that, younger people that buy this type of property end up having roommates.
Sure.
So that they can afford to do something besides make their house payment.
Right, and that's why we're providing 2 per unit. And on the upper portion of the townhome development, we're even more overparked. We have 22 units up there and 60 parking spaces.
And all of the parking area is in addition to a 24-foot road?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I also want to say that I do not think that there should be any allowance for any kind of rehab or recovering.
I agree. I believe we've already taken that out with the previous motion.
Okay. I think that's all I have right now.
Any other commissioners wishing to speak? Mr. Hardwick.
Are these going to be 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom units?
Can you move your mic down just a bit? I'm sorry.
Are they 2 or 3 bedroom units?
It will be a combination. Most likely, the interior units will be 2 bedrooms, and any 3-bedroom units will be the end units.
And what is the distance from the lower units up to West Main Street? Or excuse me, East Main Street?
Distance from the lower. Give me a second to pull out my scale. It is roughly 320 feet from the edge of pavement at East Main Street to the entrance drive into those lower units.
Have you thought about being that these are going to be workforce type, younger families that will school bus stop at East Main and then kids will walk up there versus bus pulling into the project?
I haven't had any discussions with the school system. We have run turning analysis to know that a fire truck can turn around in there, and so I would say that a bus could as well.
The other question that I have, I'm assuming these are being developed for sale as owner occupied, so I guess my question would be to staff, these are not rental units, correct?
They've stated that they're not rental.
Okay. That's all.
They are not rentals, what Mr. Green said. Ms. Longmire.
That doesn't mean they can't be rented unless there's something in the restrictions that force that, and I don't know what the legality is on that. But I mean, I'll bet you right now, anything you want to bet, there'll be rentals in there.
Could be.
And some of them will be right to start with.
Okay, we have no other commissioners wishing to speak. As a point of procedure, we need to deal with the amendment to the land use plan first. And then, once we've amended the land use plan, then we could move forward to the plan that's before us. So, do we have any, Mr. Woodcock, did you want to make a motion?
Motion to deny.
Okay, so are you a motion
The land use plan.
to do not amend the land use plan? So Mr. Woodcock makes a motion that the land use plan not be amended, that it stays as is. Okay, and seconded by Ms. Silkwood. Do we have any more discussion on this amendment, or this motion to not amend? Call for the question, Mr. Lee. All in favor of not amending the land use plan, say aye. All opposed? Let's do a roll call vote on that. I'm kind of unclear.
Altizer.
Aye.
Bryant McCormick.
Aye.
Hardwick.
No.
Jenkins.
No.
Lee.
Aye.
Longmire. Millsaps.
Aye.
Silkwood. Stringfellow. And Woodcock.
Aye.
That is 8 to 10 in favor of denial.
Okay, so the motion to amend the land use plan is denied. Thank you very much. So with that, because we've not, the rezone. So now we have to do have a motion with findings of fact on the rezone for the PDP that we have here. And I'm going to allow Mr. Free to give an explanation, and then Mr. Woodcock will turn to you again for another motion.
Let me explain this with the land use plan for that lower part not being changed does impact that portion of the rezoning request, because one of the things in looking at the rezoning request is to see if it is in conformance with the land use plan. And that was one of the reasons that the applicant was requesting the land use plan, in order to maybe get that approved so that that would help the case for the next item that we're talking about. So I just wanted to kind of cover that.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Free?
Yeah.
So if the, will there be a vote on the preliminary development plan?
Yes.
Or is it, and would a vote on that, a vote to turn it down prevent us from coming back, put a time limit on when we can come back with a revised plan,
Yes,
turning that front parcel into commercial?
Yes, it would,
Yeah.
and, yeah, and you might want to speak
Okay, so
to
then-
that. And that may be something, and there's not a.
So I would request that it be deferred
Okay.
or withdrawn.
You motion to defer?
Yes,
Okay.
indefinite deferral.
All right, we have a motion to defer by the applicant. Any, a motion, everybody okay with that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, it's deferred.
Mr. Chairman, one question if I could on that.
Yes, Mr.
deferral.
Hasty.
If it is brought back, will there be another public hearing and go through this same process and whatnot?
If,
fresh.
we'll start fresh, if it requires a rezone, there will be public hearings. If he submits a plan that fits within the zoning that's already there, all they have to do is really present site plans.
That's fine, we understand that.
Yeah.
We just like an opportunity
Yes, sir.
to address our concerns.
Yes, sir.
on
And
the
I'm
site
sure
plan,
that,
if it's available.
I'm sure that this developer will be get with you folks and try to come up with some amenable outcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, we still need to, we need to take a motion. I don't think we took a vote.
To defer.
Oh, you deferred, that's right. Okay, we're good. We're good to go then. All right, moving on down, we'll give you, I'm sure we're gonna have a mass exodus here. We're gonna wait for about 2 minutes here. We'll go on down to we're almost done. While they're leaving, I do want to make a comment to our staff. I don't know about you, but I love that video. Wasn't that great? The drone operator, that's pretty cool.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Lee.
Yeah, and I just want to say, having sat through many public hearings, it was very good, I think, tonight to have fewer speakers that could address all of the information instead of us hearing the same thing 50 times. I know that's not always possible, but I really do like the way this group addressed their concerns.
The chair was very happy. I thought there was a miracle taking place. Okay, I think we can move on. We're going to move on now to the Parkview site plan. The Delta Investment Group is handling this, Mr. Free?
Yes, this will be Timothy Witten, and we do have some drone footage to go with this as well.
Okay, Mr. Witten?
So this site is located next to the Hampton there that you see there in the video. Be on the right-hand side as you're looking at it. It is it's a two-story building, a little less than 8,000 square feet on each floor for a total of 15,956 square feet. Proposed use is office and retail. The Indian Lake Village Architectural Review Committee has approved this plan, and the applicants have agreed to all staff comments.
We have a member of the applicant here. Go ahead. Introduce yourself and talk to us about the plan.
I'm Randy Perry with Goodwin Mills Kaywood, representing Delta Investments. Randy Hoffman, our architect, is with us, Hrpc. This is, as Timothy described, a two-story building, office on the top, retail on the bottom, a unique development, and we're excited about it, happy to answer all questions. We have agreed to all staff comments.
Okay, it looks really good on the drawings here. Any comments or questions by any commissioners? Okay, hearing none.
Actually,
Okay, Mr. Hardwick, go ahead.
I'll promise I'll make it quick. Is this a spec building?
A spec building?
Or do you have tenants already lined up?
They have a couple of tenants lined up, but it is not 100% leased.
Okay. What is your parking ratio?
Parking is, we've broken down based on the uses. We're overparked by 2 spaces based on the office calculation on the top, restaurant retail on the bottom. We have a certain amount of square footage for the restaurant that we've allocated for the parking, and it's in the site data chart breakdown.
You're saying retail on the bottom, office on the top.
Yep.
Can they have office space on the bottom if that's what shows up?
Yes.
I guess that's.
Yeah, it could be.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Okay. When I've looked at the plan, it shows the stairwells. Are they exterior?
They are.
And then I'm assuming the panels come out to hide those?
They do.
Is that what
They're-
I'm seeing? The panels are away from the rear of the building?
Yes, there's 3 side panels that enclose the stairs, and then there's a roof with a cornice on the top. You can see on the elevations.
Okay.
There's a gap where you enter in, but that's essentially enclosed.
That's all the questions I had.
Good questions. Very good design, and it looks really good. Any more questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion by Millsap, second by Ms. McCormick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's so ordered. Carried.
All right, thank you.
Okay, there are no sketch plats, no preliminary plats, no rezoning requests are already done. Staff view of the projects that are approved: Alexander and Connor subdivision, lots 1 through 3. Hendersonville Business Park, Section 3, lots 6 and 7. Hendersonville Business Park, Section 3, Phase 2, resub, lot 9, final plat. And then house property resub, lots 1 and 2, final plat. Staff reviewed projects that are pending are Exxon Canopy Addition, Harbor Hills, Messenger and Sill Properties, the racetrack final plat, Old Beaverwood Recording Studio, parking lot renovation, Saundersville Industrial Park, Section 7, resub, lot 70, Walton Ferry, exterior renovations, and Waterfront Creekwood, exterior renovation site plan. And we have other, and that is the Cornerstone primary healthcare landscaping waiver, and this is a site plan revision. Mr. Free?
Yes, Mr. Witten did the review on this, and I think the applicant is here as well.
Okay, Mr. Witten.
This site has just finished construction. It's on Maple Road Boulevard, across from the Kroger. They are requesting a waiver of one of the city's landscape standards, which states that planting beds shall be mulched with naturally colored shredded hardwood, mushroom compost, or pine needles. Rock, gravel, or synthetic mulches are not acceptable. The approved site plan conforms to that standard and calls for hardwood mulch throughout. During construction, I believe that the owner requested the contractor switch the hardwood mulch to gravel, and also increase the area that would receive that gravel mulch. The owner is now asking for a waiver of that standard, and has attached, there should be an attached letter that explains why he's requesting that. Just to go over, there's a couple of reasons why that standard is in there. The first one, the main one, is aesthetic. Most landscapes utilize either a vegetative mulch or grass in the areas that are not otherwise landscaped. If you insert a gravel landscape into that context, it might cause it to look a little odd. On this lot, the lot on the right of it is undeveloped. The lot on the left is under construction. It's a little hard to imagine how it's going to look once those two lots develop with grass and the normal landscape on both sides of that. If you can imagine, if one of the lots on Indian Lake Boulevard, if one of those converted all of their landscaped area to gravel all the way up to the street sidewalk, that might look a little bit out of context. And then the secondary reason is that generally speaking, gravel mulch can stress out a landscape if the plants selected are not specifically selected for that environment. So yes, you can have a gravel area with plants in it that do well, but it has to be designed for that purpose, which this was not. So the rock, especially during the heat of the summer, acts as a heat sink, absorbs the sun's rays, releases it into the soil, superheats the soil, stresses out the root zones. So that's the reason for that.
Okay, we have the applicant here. Would you like to state your name and go ahead?
Yes, sir. My name's Paul Holloway. I'm Holloway Construction Company, and I'm representing the Lowe's.
If you would, just go ahead and give us your reasons why you would like this waiver.
Well, I've been building for 52 years, and this is the first project I've ever done that we went to the extent. This medical building is it was designed for people with allergies, all types. They treat all kind of people with problems, and of course nowadays we know there's all kind of chemicals, and mulch has all kind of chemicals in it. We know that, and it makes mold and probably a lot of other things that the Barons would know that I don't, because they're both of them are in the medical field. We knew that was on the plan, but we had hired a landscaper that told us that he worked close with Hendersonville. We were under the impression that it was okay, and the Lowe's, due to the concern of the mulch, it was very important that we don't have anything. We put a sidewalk all the way around the building. We made went to a lot of extremes on the inside. The inside of the building looks like a home. The whole building's got tile in it.
Right.
The walls in all the rooms are tile. And there's just so many things done to make this thing easy to keep up on the inside and outside too, to prevent, to help with the clientele. And anyway, when we asked him to use rock instead of mulch, and he had a price increase, which they were willing to pay, and we proceeded, not knowing that this was against the rule. A lot of times landscape architects will give you something, and it wind up varying from it some. For example, on the back of the building, we asked the city if we could put up a fence, privacy fence, between the lady behind us, and we put up a fence. Both sides are planked to give her a nice. We understand the building next door is going to do the same thing to give her some privacy. We did put in 6 to 8 foot shrubbery across the back. We left out one row, a small shrub, because I doubt anybody will ever see the back of that building, because the neighbors won't see it, and from the street or parking lot it won't show. It was not that we were trying to get away with anything, but we just, this was the best they felt for them, and we just asked that y'all might consider doing this. As far as the heat, this thing is heavily irrigated. We've done a lot more irrigation than we were required to protect the plants. Obviously, there's some there now that we're supposed to be okay that we want to replace, because they're not as nice as they should be. But that's what we're wanting to do. That's the whole idea of this, is to.
Okay, so the bottom line is you were ill-advised by your landscape architect and citing some health reasons.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That was the number one thing, in the health of the patients.
Okay. All right, any commissioners have any questions or motions, or Mr. Lee?
Yeah, just a couple of comments, and I know the owners are both medical professionals, and certainly that was their foremost concern. However, they do expect the contractor and your subs to give them proper advice. And we have an old saying in the Baptist church, it's too late to pray after the devil's come, and the devil's done come, and the rock is there. And I hate to see the additional expense of going back and changing, but I'm glad that you addressed in terms of what they desired and what they want, but then that you did not get the proper advice either, that they were out of compliance when they did this.
Go ahead.
It's not the fact that we don't, the expense of the mulch. it's the health being of the people that come there.
Ms. McCormick?
All right, so when I look at this request, and I look at the reasons why and the reasons why not. So first of all, we know that staff has approved a similar request to this in past, but because this is a larger scale than what they've approved, they felt uncomfortable, and that's primarily why it's before us. I look at the reasons why from the staff perspective on why not. It's from appearance can be jarring compared to some of the other places, as well as it looks like overall the concept of the health of plants, etc. My own personal, and I typically don't add this, but I will say I live in a subdivision that we've got houses with mulch, we've got houses with rocks, we've got houses with whatever, and it doesn't seem to impact the neighbors as much. I'm going to be honest with you, one of the best landscaping, the houses with the best landscaping in my neighborhood has rocks. And we've always commented about that. So when I look at the stress of plants and the issues that come with plants, and then I look at the stress of the health of people, I can't help but be concerned when there's a medical issue about mulch, when you have an area that's really working to be allergy-free, and I can't in good conscience put the health of issues with mulch and people over the health of that could possibly maybe be the health of a plant. And I think that becomes my concern. By all means, love plants, etc. But again, my experience with looking at rocks, the plants have been fine. So I guess for me, I don't see where this waiver is as much of an issue, especially since there's been history that we've approved similar issues in the past.
Yes.
As well as when we look at, again, someone expressing a concern about medical health versus plant health, I can't help but put people first.
Mr. Woodcock.
Thank you. I'm an old country boy, and I see these words like allergic rhinitis. Is that how you say it? I had to look that up, and where I come from is hay fever and seasonal allergies.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, that sounds legit. So I go to the Mayo Clinic, and they give 5 factors for hay fever. Number 1, tree pollen. There was a picture with trees. So is that going to be an issue?
If you would just introduce yourself and.
Okay, Baron Lowe. I'm the husband of Melanie, who owns the clinic. Live in Hendersonville. Yeah, there are trees. One thing that I found doing a lot of research, I researched this whole entire building as part of an MBA project and trying to design everything. My profession is in sterile environments as far as a pharmacist is concerned. I'm probably hypersensitive to it. Yes, there are trees, there's pollen, but one thing that we can do with this rock mulch is blow it. So every weekend we have a son who we put to work. We don't mind doing child labor, but we have a huge leaf blower that we use to blow out everything, and it just sweeps all the dirt and debris away. With mulch, you can't do that. You can't just blow everything out, especially during the high pollen season that's coming up right now. So it just creates a much cleaner environment for us.
Okay. Mr. Woodcock?
I want to approve this, but I respect staff so much that, I mean, if they can give me something that will push me back over the edge, I will. But, like, for example, could we do rock closest to the building and then do the mulch that matches the surrounding properties on the outside? I'm just talking out loud here.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned in the staff report that staff has had applications in the past to switch the mulch just around the building to rock. That reason that's been given to us before has been there's some speculation that mulch could be flammable and cause a fire. There's that perception out there. So we have, in some limited circumstances, allowed the rock specifically around the building foundation planning, but not in the past up against the street. So that's really where the divide was.
Mr. Free?
Yeah, and one reason that it's here, it's not necessarily that the staff is against the rock. It's just that the amount of rock that we were talking about versus what Mr. Witten was talking about, where maybe we've allowed it sometimes right up against the building where it was going to be mulch. It was just too extensive at the staff level because it clearly said that rock was not allowed. So we weren't comfortable doing that, and that's why it's before the Planning Commission. It's not necessarily an issue, other than Mr. Witten brought up several good points. There's not a specific issue that staff has with this, although I might say I would not be interested in changing the zoning ordinance to flat out allow rock in these kind of situations across the board. But looking at this unique situation, it's certainly not something that staff has a very strong opinion one way or the other than just, that's okay. Just want to give the facts, for the Planning Commission to consider that.
Ms. McCormick?
In light of those comments based on staff as well as the questions on the applicant, I move to approve this project with the waiver as requested to allow mulch a rock in this scenario based on the type of company that it is and their aims towards medical health.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Altizer. Any comments? Any more questions?
Mr. Chairman, could we perhaps say in here that this exception, we are making an extremely rare exception? I mean, I have some concern that there are a lot of people that come through and say, well, I have allergies and I want rock, and I mean, it could be open the gate and a proliferation. I mean, now, I'm not against the exception, but I do feel like it should be some sort of statement that it would be, the exception is extremely
I'm wondering
rare.
if, instead of amending the motion, if the maker of the motion would just restate her motion.
No, and I say that because it's rare, but it's rare because of the industry. I'm not saying that this is just any random person. My allergist said I'm the most allergic person he's ever met. That doesn't mean every single place I go, I can't go if there's mulch or pollen or ragweed or whatever it is. But based on this particular industry and the nature of their company, that's why my motion is to approve the waiver. So whether we say it's rare, it's cute, it's nice, it's fancy, whatever, to me those adjectives don't change the fact that we're still moving to approve a waiver. So whether we've said it on the record that it's rare, which it is, or it's part of some motion to add these adjectives, I don't think it changes the concept of the action that this body is about to or not take.
Thank you, Ms. McCormick. Okay, so the only way to handle this, Mr. Lee, if you are really want this to be part of the motion, the words rare, you have the right to amend the motion if you desire.
Well, my only concern is there are many, many different clinics, hospitals, medical offices. We could open up a proliferation of exceptions. If we just say it's for medical reasons, there's any number of professional practitioners that could do that. I mean, at the same time, I'm very sympathetic as to why this was done, but I am concerned of the precedents that we're setting.
Okay. Chair would note that, in the many, many years that we've been on this commission, this kind of request is rare. It really is. And that's the reason why I asked the applicant specifically what the reasons were behind the waiver for you to come up here to ask for that. Because normally we don't have that kind of discussion. Frankly, it's usually handled on the staff level, and it's just worked out, and it doesn't come to us because staff works it out. So for them to put this on the agenda tonight, I knew that there had to be a deeper reason why. And so,
David,
so very good.
I'd like to say something before
Yes.
you vote. I have a really strong feeling about going off-site and allowing something that's not allowed. then it becomes a reference point for other people to do the same. And the amount of rock, as it appears in what we've been told, makes it much more noticeable than it would if it was somebody that, where we have previously approved, or this body has previously approved, for it to be up close to the building and maybe it's not as noticeable. So I have some hesitation about the fact that it opens the door for people to say, I want to do the same thing as them, whether it's because they like it or it's a medical reason or it costs more to start with and less to maintain. I don't know all those answers. But I do think it's something to take into consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Longmire. I believe that we will take all that into consideration. Ms. McCormick?
There hasn't been a time that we don't often are concerned with precedent. That's why this is a waiver. It's not the norm. It's not the standard. We've, since I've been on this body, have deviated from precedent from time, and there are times when we stand firm. And we look at each scenario that's presented to us on a case-by-case basis when there is a waiver concern. That's why it's brought to us. We vet it. We talk about it. We go through and determine whether that particular reason is great for one. I agree with Chairman Jenkins. I think this is the first time I've ever had this request in the number of years I've been on this body. So I'm not, I guess, and there are sometimes, and fellow commissioners can definitely chime in and agree with me, that we've said absolutely no, and I've been the maker of the motion to kill something that's asked for a waiver based on precedential value. But I don't see where we've had a number of people knocking on our door or saying, okay, well, now rock's the option. Quite frankly, rock is more expensive. I mean, I just don't see where this is going to open up a floodgate of rock.
Okay, there are no commissioners wishing to speak. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Do I have a question? Somebody calling the question? This is a motion to grant the waiver. Okay. All in favor to grant the waiver, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, one no. Okay. All yes? You abstained? All yes, one abstention, one no. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Now then, we have a couple more items of business very quickly, and this would be an appropriate place, Commissioner Lee. As you know, we have to elect a secretary. This position was filled by Ms. Atchley, who is no longer on our commission. And I think Mr. Lee wanted to make a comment or two about it.
Yes, I had the pleasure of sitting next to Lori, I guess, for about 5 years, and she served on this commission in an exemplary manner for the last 10 years. So I would like for the commission, if it would, to simply have a letter sent to Lori commending her for her service to the commission and the service to the citizens of this community.
I think that is an incredible action that we should take. All in favor of that, say aye. Aye. All right, very good. Thank you, Director Free. Now we want to move on to the business of taking nominations for her replacement as secretary. And we're certainly open to open nominations, and if anyone's got a nomination at this point, we'll entertain that. Mr. Millsaps, your mic's on.
Given your explanation here in the last few minutes, Mr. Chairman, and due to this current vacancy in the Commission's officer position of Secretary of the Commission, I'd like to nominate Dr. Charles Lee as our new Secretary. And at the appropriate time, I'd like to make a recommendation as to who would follow him as Assistant Secretary.
Okay, there's been a proper nomination. Second by Ms. McCormick. Commissioner Lee serves right now as the Assistant Secretary, so it's kind of, you know, promotion.
Yeah. In the big chair.
You're climbing up, man.
Double.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Lee, you are now the Secretary. Mr. Millsap.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate that Commissioner Darlene Stringfellow be designated by the adoption of this motion as the newly chosen Assistant Secretary of the Hendersonville Regional Planning Commission.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Once again, with Dr. Lee assuming the position of Secretary, left the Assistant Secretary's position open. Have a proper nomination second for Darlene Stringfellow to fulfill that position. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Darlene. All right, that matter's taken care of. Planning Director comments, Mr. Free.
Probably sometime in the next month or two, we'll schedule a work session to start reviewing the proposed draft of changes that the staff has been working on to the zoning ordinance. So we'll make sure to get that date to everybody well in advance. So we're hoping to wrap that up here in the next month where we could maybe start with a work session on that.
And just to follow up on that, I have asked the planning staff, the planning director Free, that we come together with the work session specifically to help ourselves. We always get general education training to fulfill our positions up here, but I think that the level of where we're going through in our city, the complexity of the plans that are coming before us, that it does us well to, we got new commissioners on board and some that are newly appointed less than a year, 2 years. I think it would be really good for us to have some basics, basic re-instruction and just refreshing on what to look for when these plans come to you. What are the things that we look for as planning commissioners to do our due diligence in looking over these plans? And in talking to Director Free, I thought that the best way to do that is to utilize our staff. And I think that it would be a great work session for us. In fact, we would want to open that up to whoever, any alderman want to come to that as well. But having read these plans for a number of years, you kind of learn what to read and you learn what to look at very quickly. The stuff that's coming before us right now, it's very complex and very detailed. And I think it would be really good if we could just have a work session to bone up on that, just to make ourselves better at reading these plans. Okay, so Director Free will orchestrate all that for us, okay? I hope everybody's okay with that, because I think it would be a good session. Maybe we can order some food or something. Do we have a motion?
You ready? Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking about the notion of getting together and not have food. What kind of deal is that?
Yeah, we wouldn't cover one food, was it?
Mr. Chairman, as we have completed the agenda for this meeting, I move that we stand in adjournment until call the chair.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. We are adjourned. You got time to make the speech.
There you go.